Hey guys, Gassy TV here with the first new build coming up for 3.10 pre-release after patch notes. Gem information won't be available till after the league, according to OpenRL. I'm still waiting for the forked local density PUB update, so I doubt there will be any major changes to this. However, I will be going through a lot of mathematics into this video, so keep that in mind. There will be a lot of things I'll be calculating, so stay with me. The PUB will be linked in the description below. The reason I'm uploading to this YouTube channel, which is my secondary backup channel at the moment, is because I've had a lot of issues with my main channel since I got hacked early January. I will post a link to that below, so you guys can check out the video if you want an update of what the fuck's going on with my YouTube channel. So a few notes on the tree. As you can see, I only have level 74 on the tree, and as you might have noticed, I have 7 out of 8 nodes. That's because I'm not speccing out natural strength. I'm going to talk a little bit quickly about the tree and why I've decided to do it the way I have. And then I'm going to talk about the gear, and then I'm going to talk about the calculations. There's going to be a lot of things in here. Animate weapon is theoretically going to be absolutely disgustingly overpowered, and here's why. I will start with oiling Ravenous Horde. That's the Ravenous Horde. I think that's going to be the most fundamental point. I wanted to oil Death Attunement, but it didn't make sense to spec this. It would be a little bit better, but then I lose these 3 points for the cluster jewel that I'm going for. It would force me down here, which would cost me 2 more points, which I don't think is worth bothering. So that's one of the parts. The idea with this tree is basically to have cluster jewel ready. Now I have a jewel in here, it doesn't really matter, but so spec out here. However, if you don't have cluster jewels available, you can just go down, spec into some HP nodes. You can even go down for barbarism and whatnot and spec out some extra HP. I would not recommend taking these nodes because they give resistances. It might screw you over later if you're gearing with the resistances, forgetting that you have increased rest from the tree. But till you get the cluster jewels, you can just spec into life nodes to get more HP. Without that, I have 161% HP. My plan is to take cluster jewels that will give me HP with a minion notable that I want. So I'm not sure how that's going to work or if it's going to be expensive or anything. So we'll see how it goes. Either way, the tree is designed for level 74. So this is basically the generic tree. I'm going to try leveling with Animate Weapon using EK from the start at level 4, getting Animate Weapon. I'm going to see how it feels to level with. If it's shit, just go Blast Chain Arc Mines and you're fine. And then at level 28, we'll go for Blade Fall with Cascade to do it, obviously. So the reason I'm not speccing a natural strength and having Cold Iron Point, because the Animate Weapon will, according to the patch notes, have a physical tag. These doesn't do anything to my build right now whatsoever. They do shit because they don't give me increased level of skills. This is calculated on a Glass Shank, modified so it only has 12 PDPS according to the patch notes, because it's similar to Glass Shank's attack speed, damage, and range. I have a chest that is doing nothing right now because I'm not even adding anything in it except the 33% increased damage from the auras provided by the Animate Guardian. That's the only thing this chest is doing because I'm not linking my Animate Weapon with this. It doesn't get the plus levels. So Animate Weapon is level 1. This is to remove the increased damage modifier that didn't work, and I've then modified to remove the attack speed, which is not existent on level 1, and I modified to adjust the attack additional physical damage gained by a level 20 Animate Weapon based off the upcoming patch. So the damage I'll be showing you guys is based off a level 20 Animate Weapon, not 21, not extra skill levels anywhere, neither from a natural strength, not from gear, not anywhere. This is a level 20 Animate Weapon scaling display. The Nerf Flask is here in the PUB, showing 48% more damage, 48% more attack speed, and adjusted the increased additional physical damage minus the ones that already exist on level 1 Animate Weapon to adjust it according to the 3.10 release. And as you can see with the calculation, we will then be doing with this build 730, 88.5 Shaper DPS per weapon multiplied by 14. So this means that without weapons, without a chest piece, without a natural strength, at a level 20 Animate Weapon, this build is doing 10.2 million Shaper DPS. I'm going to repeat that. Without weapons, without chest piece, without a natural strength, at a mere level 20 Animate Weapon with no Awaken Gems or anything like that, your single target DPS is 10.2 million Shaper DPS. Where did 14 come from? 14 is the cap of the Animate Weapon you'll be having at level 20 in 3.10. Now, there's a few things to this. If Animate Weapon scales well enough above level 30, we will be looking into maybe using Empower. If Animate Weapon is getting higher amount of quantity of weapons, based off the gem level, it might be worth using Empower even if the damage is lower than an ordinary damage support, because we get an additional weapon giving us, in this case, 700k, but will be higher later. Then we might use an Empower for that reason as well. So this is the DPS, and this is the calculation. To talk about this, we are obviously abusing... Oh, actually, I'm so sorry. I had a level 21 Imperial. It's not a huge difference, but, you know, it's 10,000. It's 140,000 more DPS because it's level 21. My bad. My bad. I went a little bit crazy there with the DPS. The way we'll do it is a Bladefall Cascade. I wanted to use Unleash, but the duration of these Ethereal Blades is only 6 seconds. So I decided to not use Unleash for this and simply make sure that I have room for Flame Dash. The aura is very simple. We'll use Enlighten. If we're going to use this is if we're using Aspect of the Spider, then we'll need an Enlighten. However, without Aspect of the Spider, you won't need Enlighten. DPS will be slightly lower. It's fine. Pride, Flesh and Stone, and then using an Animate Guardian, as mentioned, with Feeding Frenzy with the Carrion Golem to buff the damage even further, and with the Maim to increase our damage even further. Utility is pretty straightforward. Since we're using Cold Iron Point Dagger for this build, we won't be able to automatically trigger Flesh Offering and Desecrate. Might be smoother and faster to do it with automation of this, but you'll do a little bit less damage. And I think that the damage will be so high that it might actually be a preferable choice. To get a +1 level of skills or all spell skills or minion skills with minion damage with a Trigger Craft on one of the daggers, dropping your enemy weapon down with 2 levels to automate this will make the build a little bit faster. But we'll get to the speed in a bit. Generosity is only there for Dread Banner. It's not a big difference, but there is a bit of a difference, so I'm going to use it. Now, the below socket here in the PoE depends on the Animate weapon clear speed. Now, if the Animate weapon is clear speed, which will require melee physical to be removed with a melee splash instead, you'll have to use a gem swap for the sake of single target versus clearing. You have 2 different choices. You will either use Spectres for the sake of charge generating if the clear speed is enough on the Animate weapons, which means that you'll be using 2 different Spectres, providing power and frenzy charges with the Spell Echo and Blood Magic, which looks like this, and that means you have room for Convocation. So this is the set you'll be using if the clear speed of the Spectres is enough. If the clear speed is not enough, then we're going to use the standard Lich Queen approach to this build, which means that we're going to get an Elder Helmet, which we preferably want to have Socket the Gem supported by minion damage and Conk Effect, and then use GMP, Control Destruction, and Spell Echo for the sake of Solar Guards, unless we're going to use some other Spectres that might be revealing themselves in 3.10 release, such as the Marikath Archers, which we don't have the numbers for, potentially the Baronite Thaumaturge, which looks very, very promising, which would actually have the exact same support gems and same type of Elder Helmet, which is the Spectres I'll be looking into testing out myself. However, if you do this, you don't really have a Convocation, which I think is kind of crucial for this type of build when it comes to survivability, because these type of builds are not very tanky in general, which means that I would then, in that case, use an Unset Ring with a Convocation as displayed here in the PoB. The extra buffs and aura indicators in the bottom here is just the command of the Spike, the Chant of the Gloves, Aspect of the Spider, which you might want to remove if you don't have the availability of accessing Enlighten, and then it's the Guardian is using a Corrupted Glove with vulnerability on hit. This is not expensive. You can get this without a life roll for a couple of chaos. If you get a decent life roll with them, I think they cost me lastly about 20 chaos. Not very expensive at all. So that is the information. In the notes, you can see more information about this, talking about the Eternal Mana Flask to reflect the 20 Animate weapon, and discussing a little bit about the Empower, arguing for that, and also mentioning what I just said with the Charge Generating Spectre, skip Onset Ring. If Animate weapon doesn't clear very well, then you want to use the Solar Guards or Baronite Thaumaturge, I think they're called. And use an Unset for Convocation if you want to. So this is basically a rough thrown together tree. However, like I mentioned before, there are still lots of damage to be applied and HP from Cluster Jewels. So you can go down for more HP if you want to skip the Cluster Jewels. If you feel that you want to, you can spend these points out here and go in here for more of that if you want to. Command of the Pit is not something that will be used. It's a thrown together PoB, so skip Command of the Pit. Use whatever else you have instead. I've done this because these give me a little bit of damage to reflect some sort of application that I would have gained from the Cluster Jewels. And that's about it. Something that is very important to note with this is the fact that this build is extremely cheap. What I'm showing you is without the natural strength, without anything of these doing anything, without the without the Skin of the Loyal doing anything, we're doing 10.2 million Shaper DPS. 14. or 10.1 million, because we adjusted it earlier, right? So 10.1 million Shaper DPS. That's the situation, that the kind of damage that we're actually dealing in this specific scenario with this build, which is absolutely, completely disgusting and absurd. Now, in the Blade Blast demo from Path of Exile, they mentioned that Animate Weapon would get an additional bonus physical damage added to them if they were summoned on Ethereal Blades. This was not in the patch notes. I've reached out to both Bex and a couple of other guys at GGG to get a response on this. So if that's the case, then the damage will be even higher. And this damage is reflecting a level 20 Animate Weapon. And I'm going to explain now what type of Animate Weapon level you'll actually be going for. Assuming you have a corrupted level 21 Animate Weapon, you get plus 6 levels from Cold Iron Points. That's level 27. Plus 2 from Unnatural Strength. That's level 29. You have the availability or the option to get plus 1 level of Dexterity Gems from the Amulet. That's level 30. If you have plus level of gems from your chest piece, Skill of Loyal, plus 1 Tabula, or a really properly rolled chest piece for high-end game gear, that's level 30. Sorry, what is it? 27, 29, 30. That's level 31. Now, if you have a level 31 Animate Weapon, I'm going to make sure I don't forget the calculation. 31. If Animate Weapon scales well enough, we might use an Empower. However, we know that any level of all gems above level 30 gives 50% of the gain they would get below level 30. So between level 20 and 30, they gain a very high scaling of most abilities. But after level 30, it's only 50% gain, which means that it might not be worth it for the sake of damage to replace your melee physical with an Empower gem. So we'll see how that goes. However, Animate Weapon is scaling quantity of their weapons based on the Animate Weapon level. So if we are in a situation where our Animate Weapon will actually gain more weapons above level 20, an Empower might be worth it, because if we add an Empower on 700k, for example, and get one more weapon, that's not just scaling the damage of all your weapons, it's also giving you an additional 700k Shaper DPS on top of that, because you get another weapon in there. That's absolutely absurd. So if we are using, let's say, a high-end game gear, level 4 Empower, with a level 1 plus 1 level of active skill gems, or plus 1 level of skill gems chest piece or support gems, you can bring that up even further, which means that you can go from 31, and let's say you only add 3 levels to the Empower, via the Empower, sorry. That means you're sitting on a level 34 Animate Weapon. But my calculation shown here is, or should be, completely accurate, or as close to accurate as possible, and reflect a level 20 Animate Weapon with a build having no weapons, no chest piece, no unnatural strength, doing over 10 million Shaper DPS. That's all I got to say for you, boys. PUB link in the description below. I don't care if you subscribe to this channel, because this is just a channel till I get my YouTube channel back. If you want to see what's happening there, there's an update link in the description below. I'll put some fucking shameless promotional link to my Twitch, Discord, and Patreon links in the description below. And, you know, I'll be posting a lot of content on this channel, because I can't post anywhere else, to make sure you guys get some proper content from me, as always. So till next time, boys, stay safe. Keep fucking rocking, okay? Just fucking rock it.